Alright, so this build has taken me forever. Let's recap where I'm at. So it's taken me multiple weeks to pull together this build because I bought parts at different times and ran into some snags along the way. So I have the Louqe Ghost S1 MK3 case. You can see it's the Arctic White version. Asus ROG Strix X570-I motherboard. Asus ROG Loki SFX-L 850 watt Platinum White Edition power supply. The Jonsbo HX6200D Black CPU cooler. Gigabyte 4060 overclock, low profile 8 gig GPU. And the Samsung 980 Pro SSD. I put a pair of Crucial Ballistix White DDR4 3600 16 gigs of RAM after having problems with memory height in the cooler. And then I found a 3900 XT to update my BIOS. So now my BIOS is updated. I've installed Windows 11 and updated to version 23H2. I installed Asus Armory Crate and updates to drivers from there for the motherboard. Nvidia drivers 551.23 WHQL. And then installed 3D Mark, also installed Steam. That's where I have 3D Mark set up. And then I ran benchmarks, Firestrike Extreme and CPU Profile. So here are my results. The AMD 3900 XT being cooled by the Jonsbo heatsink and stock fan. It looks like that it runs the and makes the CPU run cooler than the Noctua fan by maybe a couple or a few degrees. The good things about the cooler is that it keeps the 3900 XT cool, which is pretty impressive given that it's 12 cores and 105 watt TDP. So the feeling is that if I were to use the 5800 X3D, which is only 8 cores, that this heatsink will actually keep it pretty cool. The cooler will. Now the bad is that it has a higher RPM. It looks like the fan, and it does tend to get a bit noisy. It's very noticeable. It also has 9 blades, which the Noctua has only 7. And I have a feeling that maybe it's the number of blades that's causing some sort of extra turbulence or noise, or maybe makes it unpleasant. So what the Noctua excels at is it is very, very quiet. It is night and day. The bad, it seems to run a bit warmer, which is not a problem because I have a sense that I could probably tune the fan and make it run a bit faster, and it will easily catch up or even match the stock fan and stay much more quiet than the stock setup. So my preference is to use the Jonsbo heatsink with the Noctua fan. I'm going to take a look at the Noctua NF-A12 heatsink here, and we'll see if how that performs. And I'll probably end up making a decision of what do I want to maybe keep moving forward with, and then swap out CPUs and such, and then give a test and see how the other CPUs perform. All right, so this is my Firestrike Extreme score, the benchmark that I ran. It's 12,535. You can see that this score is actually very average. The things to note about this is the frame rates are going to about 80-ish, 95 at its peak. And then the thing I'm most concerned about is the CPU temperature and the GPU temperature. So the highest that the CPU goes to is about 72.63. And then for the GPU, the blue line here, it's 73.08. And then the other thing to note is the CPU clock frequency. It looks like at peak we're going about 4.6 gigs. 4.6 gigahertz, which is pretty decent. It looks like this is the CPU cooler is working fine. This is the score that I got for that. The other thing that I wanted to point out is for the Louqe Ghost S1, there was a heatsink test for this in this document. They explain how they're using I think it's an Intel 9900, and then they do not have the Jonsbo cooler that I have, but they have this Noctua NF-A12x15 which this is the cooler that I ended up buying as well. I wanted to do a comparison of this and that Jonsbo cooler. So here is some of the specs here. Talk about that a bit later. But then here you can see this is the results, and it's kind of fuzzy, the picture that they have, but you can see that the score they received was 7,975. So whatever I have right now, it looks like it's doing quite a bit more, but this could be because of the fact that I have a 4060. Now, what I want to do is kind of do a comparison of the NHL12 and then what I have. So this may not be too relevant, but it's good to know that this is generally what they were seeing. So I can take maybe this score, take a look at the score when I install the NHL12, and then kind of get a sense of after when I do the benchmark, what that will look like, or how close it is. Anyways, this is the score with the Jonsbo. The other thing that I did was I ran a CPU profile benchmark as well. Figured I might as well do this one while I'm in, or at least while it's attached to this CPU. So this is the max threads, 16 threads, 8 threads, 4 threads, 2 threads, and 1 thread. What you can see here is about the same thing, where you get max temperatures, looks like around 83 degrees Celsius. It's pretty hot. And then you see the 4.5 gigs, 4.5. We don't quite get to, we get close to 4.6, but not quite there. This should be able to go up to 4.7. So the feeling is maybe there's some sort of a thermal throttling that's occurring here. It's kind of expected because this is what a 12-core CPU. So the feeling is this cooler, even though it's doing its job, it's probably going to limit this CPU from really going as high as it can. It probably might be able to burst and get pretty close, but probably won't get quite there. So I'm interested in trying the 5600X and then the 5800X3D to see what happens. All right, so I opened up the case, and I'm going to take this this fan off and then replace it with this Noctua NF-A12x15. This is the slim version of the Noctua fan. There it is, and I've already stuck the anti-vibration pads. It comes in a little box like this, and here are the pads. So I'm going to take that and put it on there, and then see how the sound and the performance changes, if there is any. Okay, and this is what it looks like with the fan removed from the heatsink. You can kind of take a look at it. Okay, and that is the fan mounted. Looks like the cable is also a little bit extra long, so I ended up starting it over here and kind of wrapping it all the way around the side there and then over. All right, so this is with the Noctua fan in place. This is the Fire Strike score, and then you can see that here temperature seems to be maxing out at about, CPU is maxing out at about 75.25, and the GPU temperature peaks at 70.88. And then as far as frequency, we are still getting to about 4.6. Yeah, 4.6 gigahertz. So this is the CPU profile. This is for the Noctua. You can see the max thread score, 16 threads, 8 threads, 4 threads, 2 threads, 1 thread. The CPU temperature maxes out at 85.13. And here we have 4.6, and it seems to be getting a little higher. A little bit higher, maybe. Closer to 4.7, but still around 4.6. 4.637 gigahertz. So there is one more thing you can do, which is kind of neat, is you can do, you can look at your results and compare them. So this right here, this one right here is the Jonsbo cooler, and then this is the Noctua cooler. Let's do a comparison with these two. And what's interesting here is very little difference. It seems that the Noctua cooler has a little advantage when it comes to overall score. It seems to be doing better with the actual graphics tests. And then the, let's see here. You compare a couple of different things here. Compare the CPU profiles. So this is for the Jonsbo, and this is for the Noctua. And that's pretty interesting too. So it has a slightly better score, but seems to be weaker when dealing with multi-threaded CPU intensive things. That Noctua cooler seems to be a little bit worse than the Jonsbo in this case. Not sure exactly why.